What is going on, Supercell universe? What's going on? My name's Power Bang. We are live here for another Creator Academy session. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to learn with y'all today. We are going to be talking about graphics for content creation. Got a lot of experience kind of doing this over the years, not only myself, but helping a lot of content creators kind of dive into improving their channels. And hopefully we want to improve some of your guys' today. So this is going to be a live kind of interactive session where you guys get to ride along with me. You're going to help me with some decisions. Want to make this kind of a collaborative effort, if you will. So before we dive into it, I would love today if you guys in the chat would give me some ideas, right? Give me a topic. This could be, you know, your idea for a viral video. This could be something completely absurd that, you know, we just want to get some views on. Just give me a game, maybe a theme for the video, a suggested title, something like that in the comments, and we can hop right into it. While you guys are giving me those suggestions, I want to dive into some tips and, you know, some advice that I have for content creation, specifically when it comes to thumbnails. So with that, let's dive into some tips to start things off. So first and foremost, got some tactics, right? We've got, when we create a thumbnail, we want, you know, minimal points of focus. Ideally 2, maybe 3. You know, if you go more than that, it starts to lose focus for the viewers. People start to get a bit distracted as to what they're supposed to be looking at. That will make more sense here when we do our review in just a moment. But with that, we also want, you know, really high contrast. We want the subjects that you are trying to pull focus to stand out against the background, to really pop off the page. And so we'll talk about tactics for that here in a moment as well. Vivid colors is another thing. It's very, very obvious when we are looking at a timeline, right? When we go to YouTube, for example, and you look at vivid colors, it's like, man, I just wanna click them, right? Like, these are some examples of, you know, really bright, vivid colors, and I've gone to one of my kids' accounts actually to pull up some of this, and they are very clearly utilizing some best practices when it comes to kind of vivid thumbnails. So again, we'll dive into that more shortly. We also want to have minimal text if possible. Not a lot for the brain to actually process, to read. 1 or 2 words, totally fine. And we'll see examples of that here today as well. But if it starts getting into full sentences, different fonts, like all kinds of different stuff going on, that's where you kind of lose your train of thought a little bit. So that can be a bit challenging. We also want to make sure that we're designing for mobile and reinforcing the title of the video. And so above all else, the thumbnail and what you are trying to put out in front of the audience, it's essentially just packaging. Its sole job is not to look pretty. It is not to be a piece of art. It is to communicate. You are trying to communicate with your audience, specifically what the video is about. And more importantly than just your audience, it's the people that you've never seen before, right? The people that don't know who you are and are just scrolling YouTube or any other content platform, trying to find something to watch, consume, etc. It needs to appeal to them. And so overall, you want to provide context and clarity. So again, do you guys have anything that you want to dive into? I see a whole international component today in the chat. I can't read all of the languages, but if anybody has ideas on things they want to jump into, we totally can. But I can get a thumbnail started too as we get going. So first and foremost, highly recommend a free software called Canva. You can find Canva by going to their website, canva.com. You can get started for free. They do have a premium version. I want to say it's in the $10 to $12 a month range. So it is a less expensive option than a Photoshop, for example, which has long been kind of like the industry standard when it comes to graphics, but it is losing ground quite quickly to some of the competitors out there like Canva. I believe Photoshop is right around the $20 a month subscription there. So Clash of Clans update thumbnail. Ooh, that is a tough one. Give me a specific, more specific Supercell. Hit me with a troop, a building, something that I can find out there publicly, because I have maybe some knowledge of what's coming up, and I don't want to necessarily put it out if I'm not supposed to. So there's that. So they're trying to trip me up here. So let me pull up the browser. One of the things that I highly recommend doing is knowing that you have a fan kit. First and foremost, go to fankit.supercell.com. and you get a beautiful website that allows you to go into all of the public, what do you call it? Publicly available games, the ones that are globally launched. Ones in beta are not there as of now, but it's cool because you can go into, let's say, Clash of Clans, and all of the game assets you could ever want are published out there and are available for your use, which is super, super awesome. With that, we have the ability to go copy really anything that we want to do. For example, they recently had a collaboration with chess.com, and you can see a king, right? That's obviously in the form of a chess piece that you can just literally right-click, copy, and then take over to Canva. I can find my window here. And we can paste this straight in, and it'll actually preserve the transparency, which is really, really cool. So we would have the beginnings of a thumbnail like piece of art right now simply by going to the fan kit, which is really, really helpful. Inside of Canva as well, there is a notes button at the bottom of the page. One of the things that I like to do to remind myself of why am I even doing this, right? What is the point of this document? Click the notes and put in some of the things that you want to remind yourself on. So for me, I put like my top 6 tips for thumbnail design, right? We want purposeful context. We want very deliberate, like emotion being included in there. Intentional composition, vivid color, high contrast, simple and clear text, and then designing for the platform. And what I mean by that is designing for mobile, right? Making sure that on the mobile device, you're able to actually see it okay. And then also the, the thumbnail template that you're using. The important text, if you have to read something, isn't covered up by elements that are included inside of a thumbnail. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Tia in the chat, hi from Brazil. How are you doing? Let's go ahead and check out, let's start with, let's see here. I'm going to go get some ideas from the fan kit itself, and we're just going to make a super viral video. I've got too many windows open, clearly. All right. There we go. All right, so in the fan kit, I'm going to go look at, and this is a good excuse to kind of get familiar with it as well. So you can look at asset type, and we can just go to buildings, for example. And inside of buildings, we've got a bunch of builders-based stuff here right now. We've got some Town Hall 9, we've got Town Hall 10, lots of different assets here. Let's see if we can narrow it down further. And I'm going to go to... So these are just for characters. I wanted to try to narrow down to Town Hall specifically. There we go. So we'll add Town Hall to the filter. Looking for one that's kind of 3D right now. Something that would look good in a thumbnail and have the right perspective. Like this perspective for the Archer Tower is really good for a thumbnail because you're kind of flat and straight on. But that like basic Archer Tower doesn't have the flair that I'm looking for. This one, though, we could do a Town Hall 14 thumbnail. This actually looks pretty good. The only question that I have is that all of the image? It seems like it's cut off on the bottom there. It might actually be cut off on the bottom. I'll keep scrolling for a bit, but if it doesn't, if it doesn't pan out, I will come back to that Town Hall 14. I'm just going to scroll for like another minute here. I'm going back to it. I am going back to it because that was the one that was exactly the perspective that I'm looking for, and it's got the 3D, like, cool-looking asset. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to start out by pasting it over here inside of our image. And so I'll have that be kind of a piece of the thumbnail, just like that. We'll put it in the corner. And one of the things that I would be looking for as well here is and again, I don't know if Supercell would want the, the images to be messed with a whole heck of a lot, but if you look at it and it's not going to look different if you flip it. There is the ability to flip the image so that it can work better for your use case. So for example, things that I would be looking for is like this V that's on the crest here. is that going to look different if you put it forward versus backward? If so, obviously leave it as is. But any text that's going to be backwards, you definitely don't want to tweak with it. And the reason I'm considering doing this is when you look at an end thumbnail, this is a template of what might be covered. And so if I was to put, say, some text on the left side of the screen, it's not going to be covered. Whereas, where is it? Where am I? There we go. There we go. On the left side, the text won't be covered, whereas on this side, you might have a little bit of coverage of playlists or timers, etc. So I'm going to leave this somewhere in this area. And then the next thing that I want to put in is maybe a troop. And let's assume Town Hall 14 has a really overpowered troop, and I'm going to not cause any drama in the community by picking a troop at random here. We'll uncheck I'm going to clear all filters, and then I'm going to go pull up. Just going to go, let's go with the Grand Warden. Let's say he is super OP at Town Hall 14. And so I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab another, high quality image. And these can come in the place of, it could be you, it could be a troop. I do want to talk about your head or your face in the thumbnail, and what I would be thinking about when it comes to that decision. But we'll talk about that in just a second. So I'm kind of getting some things on my canvas right now to see what I have to play with. The bottom part of this town hall being cut off, I am actually not liking. So I'm actually going to remove the town hall altogether. I do like this warden at this graphic. I think this is really solid. But one of the things that we're looking to do here is to be simple. And if we do have text, have it very clear. We want it to be vivid color, high contrast. I think the orb that the Grand Warden has here, very, very vivid and high color. So I think there's definitely a lot of potential. Then they also have the ability through filters and stuff to bump this up more. I don't necessarily recommend tweaking the official graphics, but for implementation on YouTube, there is always kind of a last step of bumping up the saturation or the vibrance of an image to get a little bit more attention. And I want to show you guys kind of what I'm talking about in just a moment. So we talked a little bit about some of those big questions, right? We talked about, for example, do I put my face in the thumbnail? What about text? Why or why not? Let's look at some examples, right? So here are some examples. You guys have seen them all over YouTube. Very prominent face in the thumbnail. Maybe there's text, maybe there's not. There's examples of both on this page, but I wanted to talk about why or why not you might consider putting your face in the thumbnail, or why you might not. And so many creators feel, hey, this is an opportunity for me to build my brand, right? This is to have me be different from the game, for my fans or the audience to be able to follow me. And what if I switch games one day? Or what if the game dies? Or all of these considerations are going on as a creator. And what you have to realize and understand is that at first on your creator journey, when you're starting out, the reality is you have to think about how strong your brand and the attraction to you as an individual or as a performer, as a creator, how strong is that attraction, right? And if you don't have the notoriety or the popularity early on in your career, which no one does, it is far more useful to lean on the game that you're covering, especially if they have, popular websites with, fan kits and assets. These are far more recognizable to quite literally 100 million people, right? Or more. More people recognize an image that is in high quality, that's of a certain character from a certain game, than they will recognize you. And so what you're trying to do inside of the actual thumbnail is to make sure that you get that recognition, right? You want people to immediately see and understand. And that goes back to kind of my initial notes of, is the purpose of the video immediately clear? And if I'm scrolling on YouTube, if I'm going to, check out a particular website and I scroll and I'm looking around and I don't really see anything, there's one that pops off the page right now, and it's this one right here. This is Judo Sloth Gaming. somebody that I definitely would take a look at if I were you. Go to the channel, look at what they're doing, but the color, it definitely pops off the page. Another one is this Dark Truth, Rockefeller, the world's first billionaire. This is another one that just jumps off the page compared to those that are around it. And the reason is it's super simple to understand. You don't have to process information. And you also have that vivid contrast, right? Dark Truth immediately jumps off the page, the red and the bright green, highly saturated, highly vivid, and it's automatically grabbing my attention as I scroll by. So the rule of thumb for me is as you scroll by, if something grabs your attention and makes you stop, it's effective. Then it's the process of kind of absorbing that information. So first step is, would the thumbnail immediately grab my attention? Next step is the purpose immediately clear, right? And so with that, let's go a little bit deeper into the premise that the Grand Warden is OP. So I'm going to kind of put him in the corner and make him a point of focus. And I would love to have some sort of bright background, similar to the thing that I just was showing you guys right here, like this Dark Truth, how it's like bright red in the background. I would love to do that. The background of Clash of Clans is certainly very, very iconic and recognizable, but it does blend a little bit more than a plain background. So I definitely want to check that out. So let's go here, and I'm going to go to the background, and I'm just going to try some random colors at first. I don't have a plan at this point, besides maybe taking a look at the photo colors, which are being pulled from this Grand Warden image. So maybe I check this for the background, and that isn't exactly what I want here, but we're going to keep playing around. I'm going to go into the document, and maybe I lighten it up. I'll tweak the hue a little bit. Do something like this. Like, this is actually headed in the right direction in my eyes, as far as like, holy crap, I cannot not pay attention to this if it's on the timeline. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna land somewhere around here. This is an interesting one for me, right? Because also, if I see this is like a specific skin for a Grand Warden. Maybe it doesn't make a ton of sense. So what I would like to do is be able to tie the brand into this video, or into the thumbnail of the video a bit more. Welcome, Arfty. Totally not pre-recorded. We are live right now. Welcome to the stream. Feel free, if you want to see something in particular, feel free to ask in chat, and I am happy to address it. Let's go ahead and drop in an element, though. I'm going to put in a square, and I'm going to make it just pure white. The reason I go with white is because look at the contrast of how it stands out against the pink. And all I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to turn this on its side, and I'm going to go throw it up in the corner somewhere, something about like this. There we go. And all I'm trying to do here is give this a little flair of like, what is this game even about? Like, if somebody's not immediately familiar that this is Clash of Clans, I want to figure that out for them, right? And so let's go to clear all filters. Let's go to logo inside of Clash of Clans. And then let's go grab their logo. And I'm going to grab the English one. Right click, copy, go back here, and then I'm just going to paste it into my Canva document. And now I have the logo. The interesting thing for me is I have a few competing colors right now. When I look at this, it grabs attention, but it's not as pleasing from a composition standpoint to the eye. And what I'm looking at is I've got this hot pink kind of in the background. I've got like a pinkish purple for this orb, and I've got the Clash of Clans red. All of those are like right next to each other on the color wheel. And I would love to kind of sync up at least one of these somehow. So what I'm looking to do is maybe adding a bit more of a complementary color in the background, and I will shift that more towards this red color, perhaps. I want it to be brighter than that, I know that much, but maybe that's a way to have it kind of blend a little bit more here. So something like this, and now I will tweak this in the corner, and it's a bit more clear what we are actually covering here. So Clash of Clans, I don't know if I like the white on the background. Honestly, it does stand out, but I'm going to try this in black. I feel like that is a much better look contrast-wise for the logo. Logo sits better on a dark background, and now that gives me the ability to potentially tweak this background color a little bit more. So something more to that nature. And I actually like the way the background is coming along right now as far as the way that kind of blends. It's not super off, you know, it's a little bit off, but I'm doing it to have that vivid like pop of color. But now let's say, I don't know about this Grand Warden, right? Let's go back to the game assets, and we're going to let's go grab Grand Warden skins and see what we can find. Maybe there's a different skin for the Warden that looks better. And I'm liking this one, because you'll notice he's wearing some red. So let's go ahead and copy that, and we'll go pull it in. I'm going to hide this one for the moment. And now we have ourselves a skin. The interesting thing is the way he's holding that, it literally blocks what we just did. So we've got a bit of an issue unless we swap the side of the screen, which I think I'm going to do. So I've highlighted this little box, and I'm going to actually just flip this so that it's the other way. A little bit of a, you know, audible after the fact here. But that happens sometimes as you're designing. It's like, oh, we're doing something. It's not quite how I want to see it, right? So we've got to tweak and call an audible. So now we still have the Clash of Clans label. It still has some familiarity when you're scrolling. And now we have the ability to make this bigger. And the reason for that is I want to be able to draw attention to this Grand Warden in a way where I can very clearly tell that he is the focus of this video. And the interesting thing is I can overlap that tab a little bit, give it a little bit of layering. And on the background here for this this color, I'm going to add a gradient and switch this other color here. I want to switch it so that it's the other way, actually. So I'm adding a little bit of a red, orange to red type of gradient, and I want to flip that. I don't know if I can. I'll have to actually tweak the colors so that they go the other way around. So I'm going to copy this one. And I'll paste it in. I lost my other color, but I'll sample it again and I'll just re-grab it from the shield. And then I'm going to bump up how vivid it is, actually. We'll go there. Something to that effect. Maybe even not quite so orange on this front. There we go. So now it's starting to come together a little bit. And what do we want to say about this particular, you know, Grand Warden? I'll say Grand Warden... Let's see, new Grand Warden. I'm trying to think of a impactful word. I'm thinking like destroys. I'm thinking OP, but OP isn't as. I don't want to like put this specifically like as I'm thinking about it. I don't want to make this only for English speakers as well. So. One of the things I'll do under elements in Canva is I'm going to look up a new label. And we'll see if there is some sort of new, like this. And the cool thing is I'm going to reverse the colors here. And I'm going to change this from white. And this one, I will go like that. Where it's just a little bit of a, you know, an indicator. And I don't know if this will make the final cut, but it's an idea, right? And so I want to put in some text right now that talks specifically about the Grand Warden. And so I will do that by adding in, I'll just push the letter T, and I will put in Grand Warden. And I'm going to use the Clash text. And again, if you guys are not familiar on where to find that, literally go to the fan kit, and you can go right here to font, and then download it straight to your computer and put it in. You can use that on your computer if you use Photoshop. If you're using Canva, when you click the fonts section, you can quite literally just upload a new font, which is really, really cool. So if I type in, let's see here. Oh, I'm in a font. I'm like, why can't I add? Okay, so if I go to fonts, it's weird. It's not letting me add one at the moment. I just literally did this right before the screen, or right before the stream. But you can literally add new, upload logos. You could change the fonts. I won't spend too much time on that because clearly it's here. You can do it. You have to click around a little bit, figure out where exactly to go. But one of the things I will do is I'm going to try to use a font. And one of the things that I noticed about the Clash font is while it is iconic, it's very fat and wide, right? Like me. Can't really fit it into the space that it needs to go. So one of the things you'll have to do is you'll either need to go 2 lines or you'll have to use a different font. And so one of the things that I want to do here is I will put in a larger font style, and I'm going to shrink up the line spacing by clicking this little spacing button. And this gives me a better idea of what I want to kind of place. Then I'm duplicating the layer right now, and I'm just going to do it in black. And the reason for that is I'm going to add a bit of a shadow. And I'm just positioning it offset a little bit so that it stands out. And this is just like an easy way to get some definition on the actual text. And then I highlighted both, and then you can right click and say group. And then it puts them together for the future. So now we have the ability to actually keep those together. So that's one option on text. You could also do another option if you were looking to do it. I'll move this over here for right now. And then I will type in Grand Warden one more time, highlight it, and I'm going to look for BBS. And then I'm going to make this much bigger like we did before. Whoops, not that big. Good Lord. And so you'll have the ability to kind of select some different fonts that maybe, fit the space a little bit better. You'll notice that this is much more narrow, and I can almost fit it on one line. But what I want to do is do something like this where I want another word that I can do in this thumbnail. And so with the text here, I want to add a stroke, which means you're putting an outline around it. And so with that, let's go to effects. Let's see, where is the outline? There it is. Outline, and then it'll actually put you can see the outline there, what the thickness looks like. And I'm going to grab kind of a red color from the logo, but darker. And all I'm trying to do is just give it some definition here. Don't know if that's, successful just yet, but trying to get this thing to jump off the page a little bit more than it currently does. All right, so I'm going to shrink it a little bit more. And I'm going to change the font one more time right here to... Oh, there... I was somehow in a sub-menu. So at the bottom is where I was trying to find. So upload a font right here is what you would do. You'd click that, and it just takes you to your computer. You upload the font, you're good to go. So I'm just going to find another text that I kind of like. And then let's find... You can scroll through whatever it happens to look like. And you just pick what you can see there on the side. You want this to be clear and readable. And so I like that one. That's not bad. It's a little too tall. I want something a little bit more short. That's way too hard to read. This one is decent. I just need to shrink it up a little bit and see how that looks. A little too wide. that one. This one's very good. So intro Rust. So we'll put something like this in there. I'm going to get rid of the new icon. I don't like that as much. And then with this, we are getting close to something that I want to test and kind of put into kind of a test case, if you will, and see kind of how we're looking. So with the background, I want to go to the fan kit as well one more time. I want to take a peek at the home village and see what kind of troops we have here as well. I'm going to grab this this Lava Hound. Because let's say the Lava Hound is part of the strategy that you're trying to communicate. And again, I'm putting this in there to give it a little bit of character. And also make sure that it's like very Clash of Clans themed, right? And then in the background is what I'm kind of looking to do right now. I want a screenshot of... Let me see if I can pull something from Google. I would just go screenshot my base, but I don't have a Town Hall 14. So Town Hall 14 base Clash. Perfect. And so what I'm going to do is copy one over. This isn't the greatest Town Hall 14 I've ever seen, but that's okay. Copy the image. I'm just going to paste something in. And so now this is the part that most people fall apart on, and the reason for it is you're kind of overcomplicating, if you will, and I have the risk of doing that right now. And so what I'm trying to do is something very subtle where I'm not overpowering the text and everything else, and I want to position this behind. So if I go to layer and I want to send to the back, it'll put everything else in front. And we can see kind of where we stand right now. So overall, it's getting a bit more Clash of Clans themed. I don't like the shadowing on the text. I'm going to change this outline to black. And I'm going to change the shadow itself. Do something like... I'm going to go big with this. We'll go there. And then the shadow itself, I'm going to change to the darker red. And then that should give us a bit more of the effect that we were kind of hoping to go for there. I don't even know if I need the shadow anymore. Now that, still kind of do. So with the shadow, I'm going to go to effects. I'm going to, let's go blur that. Let's see, blur. I'm going to lock the background as well for now. We're going to call this set in place. There we go. And now I have a Grand Warden, label here, essentially. And then it destroys. I don't like the word destroys either. Let's change this one more time, and then we're going to go start tweaking a little bit. So Grand Warden... We're going to call it the best hero. I feel like that's controversial and might generate some clicks. So we'll position that like so, and then I'm going to add an outline to this one as well. And this one is going to be white. Oh, not the... Go here. There it is. So again... This doesn't seem like the craziest thumbnail in the world. It really isn't, to be quite honest. One of the other things we can do here as well is grab the Grand Warden. I'm going to edit this photo as well. I'm going to put a little blur on it. Let's take the intensity up a little bit. Sweet. I'm going to go intensity down. And all I'm doing right now is kind of blurring the word. I'm telling the purple area which parts to actually blur. And so now I have this. And I'm going to go back. And I'm going to position this behind my other warden. Giving it a little bit of, background glow, more or less. And this is something that I wouldn't necessarily do in Photoshop, but I am doing in Canva, just because it is something that's at your, kind of disposal. And with that, we are going to save this off. And again, isn't like a crazy thumbnail, but I want to show you how it could potentially be effective. So I'm going to go to share, and I'm going to just download this particular image. And it is going to download right now. And we're going to do a couple of checks first and foremost. Better than Queen, Power Couple says. I do like that. Perhaps that might be better served in the title, though, because it is a lot to put in into the thumbnail. And so one of the things I want to talk about too is some of the questions in chat specifically. When does it become too much text? And I want to show you exactly that kind of test and how you can kind of check that. This is an example of one with text in it. And I wouldn't recommend going any more than where I kind of landed here. This is like the top end of what I would do for text. And so now I'm going to pull open on my computer this saved thumbnail, and we want to check it against a couple of things. So first and foremost, let's drag it into here. This is the thumbnail template that I have that kind of displays specifically, can you still read the text, right? If you do have text on there, what is going to get covered by the other elements? So this one, from a text perspective, is safe. So you're going to be able to still read Grand Warden, Best Hero, etc. So I like the way that looks. You can still see a little bit. Know that this right pane is not commonly there, but it's there sometimes. And then this top bar, they may have removed the top bar in recent design updates on YouTube, but this is where the playlist and the title of the video and all of that would go as well. So it could have the potential of covering your Clash of Clans. So that's something to be aware of. And then on the mobile side of things, this is another area where I like to kind of pull in a thumbnail here and just check and see what it's going to look like on YouTube. And this is a test to see, hey, will this stick out against another, video? So this is a decent actual, like when you scroll through, I'm like, oh, interesting, right? One of the things that as I look at this this thumbnail that potentially is missing is a description about what town hall level that this is appropriate for, so a bit more context for the viewer. And then let's go into kind of review here. And what I want to do is not paste the Grand Warden. I want to paste the thumbnail. And so I'm loading up my thumbnail right now, and it should show up at some point. There we go. There it is. And I want to go ahead and I'm going to change one of these other ones. Let's go here. Here, and then I'm gonna match the style, and I'm gonna do corner rounding. Pretty simple to do within Canva, but I will go ahead and try to match the style that YouTube has as best as possible, and then we will show you guys specifically how I test like the actual thumbnails and how they are performing. And this is something that you'll obviously get better at as you gain experience. Let's call that good for the moment. And so now I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to go to the top, and I'm just going to scroll. And so that right there is like my test, right? So first and foremost, when you go back to our notes, let's check them. Question number 1, when scrolling past the thumbnail amongst a group of others, would the thumbnail immediately grab my attention? And so with that, let's go to the review. And we're scrolling past. does it immediately grab your attention? Like, is there something that jumps off the page as you scroll by? In my opinion, yes, it sticks out pretty tremendously amongst this group of thumbnails. Most of these are kind of like dark in nature, fairly shadowy. There are a few that jump off the page to me. One is the Dark Truth here. One is this Xmas event promo code that lacks a lot of context, but it does grab my attention. Scrolling further, Clash Match Challenge jumps off the page, and the Grand Warden Best Hero one that we just did also jumps off the page in my eyes. And so the orange for me jumps off the page. That was why we kind of chose it. I will say, though, this is one of the areas that as you're developing your thumbnails, we started with pink, right? And we changed because of the Clash of Clans logo. Well, what if we went back to the background, right? And we were just like, let's go figure out if pink would have been a better choice. And so we can go in, we can grab maybe some pinks, something like that. And then the other one, we can go maybe something here. I don't know, something like that. Seems all right. And then maybe we go grab our other Grand Warden friend. Let's go back to the fan kit. And I have so many windows open, it's nearly impossible, but we will get there. Trying to broadcast this and do the actual design at the same time is quite fun. Ooh, the Apprentice Warden is a good one. That was I should have done that. That's like, let's do a little bonus, right? Let's go grab this Apprentice Warden, and we're gonna throw him in right here. I'm gonna crop this a little bit so I don't have as much dead area to play with. Go, and we're gonna make him much bigger. This is awesome. So I like the way this is coming quite a bit. I'm going to unlock this background and make it a bit bigger because it doesn't blend as well. Now, Apprentice Warden, everybody's gonna be searching for. So I'm going to do something that is a bit of a risk, and I would like A/B test this. And what I mean is like test this against other titles and concepts. I want to actually use the word tiny. Let's see if this actually works or not. I don't know if it will. And then I'm going to, for my color, I'm going to differentiate it a bit so it's not quite as overpowering on the white. I'm going to go sample from the Warden. Maybe, nope, not bright enough. Just a little bit, right, to give it a little bit of that contrast. And then I want to see how this ends up looking. We'll grab something like this. And again, this by itself does not look incredible by any means, right? But the cool part is we get to go check it against all of the other stuff. So I've moved the Warden to the front so that it kind of overlaps a little bit. And then in the title, it would be important that you have Apprentice Warden so that it can be searched. Definitely want to make sure that doesn't get forgotten, like the actual search capability. And then I'm not a fan of how the tiny looks right now. I think it needs to pop a little bit more and really drive home that emphasis. So I'm actually going to sample the color that's in the Warden's hand here. And that, for me, is much more vivid. And I think that this will pop in the actual the actual scrolling here. So with that, I'm going to do one more check on like any supplementary images to see what else I might be able to put in the thumbnail to make it clear that it's Clash of Clans. Let me go grab maybe a dragon. Might be some cool. No, not the right colors. What about a minion? I feel like something floating in that upper left is solid. And I'm trying to think of like all the flying troops, right? So maybe a minion would work. We'll see if the colors work out. Maybe. This blue actually might work out nicely, so I'm going to go ahead and copy him. And we'll paste. That's not bad. Not bad. As far as like color complements and all of that. So we've got Clash of Clans in the top. I'm going to change the background color of this box. Just to see something, I'm going to sample it from this kind of like this navy color here. I don't like it. So we're going back black. So I'm going to call it there just so we don't like, you know, spend all day on this. But I did want to show you guys, you know, simplicity and making sure that you can kind of see what this looks like on the actual timeline is super, super helpful. So let's go download, and I'm going to go pull this back in. Once again, I will put it into our other templates. Let's go here. Delete that one, and I'm going to upload our brand new. You know what? I may not have given it a name. Error occurred. Go figure. Let's try again. I think it might have been because I had the same name. There we go. Now we're good. So let's load that back in, and we'll see what this kind of looks like in our templates that we've established. And again, very readable. You can still see everything, so no concerns there. Let's compare this to the last one that we just did. I think this pops even more from a color perspective. I like this, and then it's really at this point kind of coming up with a title that makes sense. And let's go ahead and we'll drop this one onto the timeline as well, and I will add the curves and the images and whatnot. Just a second. Let's go here. Corner rounding 12, just to make it fit the theme of the YouTube. We'll drop that in like so. So now when we do our test, right, if we remember what that is, we look at our notes. Would the thumbnail immediately grab my attention? Let's go ahead and give that a quick test here. When we go scroll, it's like Tiny Warden jumps off the page. And I don't know if you guys, like when you see this chat, like look at the thumbnail and ask yourself as you scroll by about this fast, did you read it and absorb what it says? And the tip for doing this is don't look at your thumbnail, right? Like don't look at Tiny Warden and like really scrutinize it. Look at the center of the page and just scan as if you were the person browsing the screen. So as you look, I noticed like the Tiny Warden, I saw the Clash of Clans logo, I absorbed like, hey, I actually read that and I wasn't trying to. For me, that jumps off the page, and the purpose of the video is not necessarily immediately clear, to be fair. Like it is about a Tiny Warden, but what does that mean? This is where the title can reinforce what that looks like tremendously. So that is where you look down, and obviously it wouldn't be the wrong SAT question here. It would be new apprentice warden, you know, or something to that effect. That would get the viewer to immediately understand what this is about. And then lastly, does every element included provide the viewer value? And so let's break that down by looking at this in and of itself. So when we look at the text, right, Tiny Warden, does that communicate something? Yes, it does. It talks about the subject of the video. Then we look at this element over here, our actual apprentice warden. Does that communicate value? Yes, it does. It's a visual that helps people understand and connect with what the video may be about. Then we look at the minion over here, and it's like, does this communicate value? Maybe on this one. I believe it does, because without it, the context of what game is this is not immediately clear if Clash of Clans is covered by, say, a playlist or something like that. If it's obstructed in some way, I don't necessarily know that it's Clash of Clans, right? And so that's why I've chosen to put a minion or some sort of troop in the thumbnail, so that no matter what's obstructed here, I look at it and I'm like, oh, this is Clash of Clans. I'm familiar with that game. I know what the Tiny Warden is in reference to. Then we look at the background. We have a base here. This is a random base, but perhaps you grab one that has a bit more context, or maybe You even zoom in specifically to whatever the subject matter is that you're talking about. Like there's Town Hall 14 there, right? I believe that this, again, provides kind of a subconscious kind of context to what you're talking about. But you want to be careful not to overdo it and do something like this, because this is the mistake that people often make, right? Let's go ahead and download this, and I'm going to decrease the thickness on some of the borders, and I'm going to show you that just with a couple of tweaks here, how this ends up looking with very, very minimal differences, right? So all I did was delete a couple of things. I'm going to download this thumbnail. And this is going to be called Bad. So here is that exact same thumbnail. Let's throw it here on this one. And we will round those corners to make it fit in with the rest of them. So the amount that this one pops off the page as you're scrolling by versus the other one, you can see the difference in when you're scrolling. Does it immediately stop you and grab your attention? Can you absorb the actual text as you scroll by? And for me, the answer on this one is no. I can't. It's too fast. There's not enough contrast there. There's not enough clarity with the text. So that's something that I would highly recommend, providing that contrast so the text stands out from the background. It doesn't necessarily mean you need a hard border like I have here, but I've done that in order to help separate the text from the background. You can see Judo has used a similar approach and has probably done this more so in Photoshop, which is a more expensive tool, but did want to show you guys some of the the free options that you can accomplish today. But this was very minimal changes here. We just bumped this back up to where it was, and now we are kind of good to go with regards to the thumbnail. So I want to take a moment, ask any questions that you guys have. While you guys are doing that, I'll go through kind of the remainder of some of the real talk and the actual do's and don'ts, I guess, if you would say. So text in the thumbnail, for me, it's not required. Communication can be nonverbal. You can see there's a few examples on screen here of thumbnails that have done exactly that. Mr. Beast does this all the time. And if there are, if there is text in the thumbnail, it's in the corner where it's like day 2 or hour 50 or whatever it is, right? Very simple. And that's something that, you can do very effectively, but the thumbnail itself has to capture somebody's attention, and it has to be clear what it's about. So real talk, don't get cute with the thumbnail, right? Don't be fancy with it. Don't try to make it a huge art project. I think you guys probably, as we're designing here, it's probably like, man, that's not that great. And you're right. It's not. It's really not that great. The crazy thing, though, is it doesn't need to be that great. Notice a lot of the ones here that grab attention, there's not a lot going into them. So if I actually went to YouTube right now, let's go to here. Notice, some of the skill level here of like what this is. This is a great thumbnail right here. How one card can break Clash Royale by Inshane. 403,000 views. This has a background. This has a prince, and it has the elixir cost. And that's it. Literally, the little prince is the only subject there, along with the elixir. That's all it takes. And so using the fan kit can help a lot. Then there's another example that I wanted to point out on here that was very, very elementary. Oh my God, there's me. That's so funny. That is so funny. There was another one that I just saw, like this one, Ned. I mean, quite simple. It's literally a picture of the subject and one word. And it helps you kind of communicate what is the video about. And so that's something that I urge you guys to keep in mind. Again, looking at many of these, this is a sandwich, controversial statement pointing to a piece of pizza. Really like that one, actually. And then with that, you can see the theme on many of these is quite simply have a subject, and if there is text, it's very brief. You can see, nuke it, Canada's worst killer. Like, those are very, very brief points of text. So anyway, wanted to show you those examples before we actually got out of here today. The last thing that I have is the don'ts, right? Avoid doing these types of things. Heavily styled text, harsh gradients, blurry drop shadows, glows, low contrast, etc. It typically manifests itself in something that looks like these, where there's just like unnecessary effects and text. It just makes it hard to read. Remember, the point of a thumbnail is to communicate. And if you're not able to see what it is and absorb it basically as you're scrolling past, it can be improved. And so that's something that highly, highly recommend that you guys kind of take into account is, can it communicate effectively? Is it functional? And that's that. So let's go ahead and check the comments. Cled, appreciate you pointing out that this is a great program and it is free to you guys. Big props to Supercell for that. So yeah, feel free let's go for a question here. We'll see what we got here. So I feel like there's not enough space in the thumbnail. I'm terrible with doing the right ratios. Grimity, that's a great point. One of the things that I would recommend is focus on the points of focus, right? Think about like, okay, I have 2 things in this thumbnail that I can focus on. That's it. Whether that's some text and an image, whether that's 2 images, whether it's the logo of the game. 2 things. Keep it super simple, super basic. That will make it hard for you to kind of run on, right? Then it's a matter of how can you most succinctly and briefly with text communicate whatever the idea is. Oftentimes it's some sort of sensational, like we just saw it a moment ago. Can't remember what the name of it was. It was Canada's worst killer, nuke it. Like, again, very simple text that was used, but like 2 words, 3 words maybe. So that would be my best recommendation for not feeling like there's enough space. It's quite simply just forget about all of the extra stuff and try to like get back to the basics, which is communication. So focus on what you're trying to communicate. What are the most important ideas? Put those front and center, and then try to brighten it up and liven it up so that it grabs people's attention as you scroll past it. An exercise like what I did with you guys today and showed you like as you're scrolling past it on the screen, that can be super useful to like actually make the connection for you as a viewer. Wow, did that actually work or not? So that would be my best advice there. All right. Thank you so much, John Doe. Appreciate it as well. Guys, that is going to do it for today's Creator Academy. I hope you found at least 1 or 2 nuggets here that were useful. Again, everything in today's session was done in Canva. You guys can find that for free at canva.com. And again, thank you to Supercell for having me back to talk to you all on content creation. It's a passion of mine, and really happy to be able to share some of the knowledge that I've been able to accumulate over the years with you all. Best of luck to you. I'm out of here. Make sure that you check out the Creator Academy over at the creators.supercell.com website as well. Once you log in, there's a wealth and treasure trove of videos exactly like this one, in short form, long form workshops, specific courses, etc. for you to check out as well. So that'll do it for today. Power Bang out. Thanks again, Supercell, and thanks to you guys for watching.